David, a 30-year-old graphic designer living in Seattle, has recently found himself single after a long relationship ended. After some time to heal, he decided it was finally time to dive back into the dating world. What drives him to start dating again is not only the desire for companionship but also the realization that he misses the excitement of finding someone special. He feels a mix of hope and anxiety as he opens this new chapter in his life. David's past experiences have left a mark on how he views love and relationships. His last serious relationship was filled with intense moments, but it ended badly due to a lack of communication. This heartbreak taught him that timing and honesty are vital. He knows he has to be careful not to jump into something too quickly or let his emotional guard down too soon. He worries about making the same mistakes again, such as ignoring red flags or overlooking his own needs for the sake of being liked. To prepare for his journey into modern dating, David decides to explore various dating apps. The idea of using technology to meet new people excites him, yet he is a bit skeptical about how genuine connections can be in a digital world. He tries a few apps, feeling cautious about the expectations often placed on appearances. David hopes to challenge some of the common dating norms by focusing on what really matters: connection, conversation, and shared interests, not just superficial details. Despite societal pressures, David reminds himself that he doesn't have to conform to anyone else's idea of dating. Each time he swipes right or engages in a conversation, he feels a mix of hope and tension, wondering if this time it could lead to something meaningful. He approaches dating with an open heart but is careful not to rush into anything. Each interaction helps him learn more about himself and what he truly wants in a partner, bringing him one step closer to understanding love again. As David continues to explore the world of dating, he feels a wave of excitement at first. Each swipe on the dating app reveals a new face, a possible connection. However, after several weeks of this routine, the novelty begins to wear off. David starts to feel a heavy weight of exhaustion from the continuous cycle of dates. The thrill of meeting new people gives way to a sense of dating fatigue that he had not expected. As he juggles multiple conversations, he finds it increasingly hard to keep memories of each person straight. Some interactions seem promising, yet they often end without clarity. Mixed signals leave him confused. One moment, a hopeful text lights up his phone, and the next, it is met with silence. The constant up and down of emotions gives David anxiety. He wonders if he is doing something wrong. Is he being too picky? Is he coming off as uninterested? Questions swirl in his mind, each feeding into his self-doubt. On some days, David catches himself staring at his phone, waiting for a message that does not come. Other times, he scrolls through conversations and feels less excited than before. What once was fun now feels like a burden. David begins to doubt if modern dating is even worth all this effort. Each time a date goes poorly or a potential match fades away, he questions whether he is cut out for this form of finding love. Could it really be true that dating in today's world is more difficult than ever? He cannot shake the feeling that he is simply missing something essential. He recalls his past relationship, the connection that flowed easily. This remembrance contrasts sharply with the awkward and forced conversations he has lately. Comparing his current experiences with those joyful moments makes him feel even more lost. Why can others find love so easily while he seems to struggle? David starts to think maybe he should take a break, but there is still a small part of him that refuses to give up. With a heavy heart, he tries to remind himself of some things he once learned about love. He had been told that dating is not only about finding the right person but also about learning about himself along the way. Each interaction teaches him about what he values, what makes him laugh, and what he longs for in a partner. Despite the struggles, David attempts to hold on to a sense of hope. But as the days turn into weeks, he questions if this hope is enough. Feeling overwhelmed, David decides to talk with his friends. Sharing his dating stories helps lighten his emotional burden. They laugh at the silly moments and support him through the disappointments. Gradually, he begins to recognize that he is not alone in this journey. Others face the same fears and frustrations. They share their own tales of rejection and confusion. In stories of others, he finds a sense of resilience that rekindles some of his lost hope. Realizing that it is okay to feel unsure gives David the strength to shift his perspective. While the struggle of modern dating is real, so is his ability to adapt, learn, and rise above the doubts. One evening, after what felt like an endless search through the dating app, David matched with someone named Sarah. Her profile caught his eye with warm and inviting photos, and her bio showed a passion for adventure and connecting deeply with others. Excitedly, they started chatting, and their conversations quickly flowed. They laughed, shared stories about their favorite movies, and even discovered that they both loved hiking. David felt a spark of hope. For the first time in a while, he believed he might have found someone special. As they arranged their first date, David could hardly contain his excitement. When they finally met at a cozy cafe, it felt like everything had fallen into place. They talked for hours, discussing their dreams and how they viewed the world. David admired Sarah's sharp mind and kindness. He felt seen and appreciated in a way he hadn't expected. After that night, things seemed to fast-track. They went on more dates, shared their lives, and got swept up in the wonderful feelings that come from genuine connection. However, as their relationship grew, David began to notice some subtle differences in their views. While he cherished the idea of building something long-lasting, Sarah often spoke about enjoying the present moment, without planning too far ahead. At first, David found this refreshingly carefree. He liked the idea of living in the moment. Still, as weeks went by, he sensed an underlying tension. They discussed plans for the future, and when David brought up important topics like commitment, Sarah would deflect or change the subject. Her light-hearted attitude felt like a stark contrast to his desire for deeper connections. This difference started to weigh heavily on David. He found himself questioning whether the relationship could work in the long term. Was he pushing too hard for something she didn't want? He loved the time they spent together, but what would happen if his needs didn't match hers? Those nagging doubts filled him with unease and forced David to dig deeper into his own needs and desires. He realized that while Sarah was delightful, he couldn't ignore his own longing for a more serious outlook on love. Feeling torn, he turned to close friends for advice. They reminded him that it is perfectly fine to have differing views on relationships. With their support, David started recognizing that these conversations were necessary for him to understand what he valued most in a partner, as well as in himself. His friends encouraged him to speak openly with Sarah about his feelings. The next time they met, he gathered his courage and shared his thoughts. David expressed how much he valued their love but had to be honest that he hoped for a more committed relationship. To his surprise, Sarah listened attentively. While she expressed that she wasn't in a rush for anything serious, she appreciated his honesty. They eventually agreed to explore their connection while keeping their minds open to where it could lead. This experience brought a sense of relief to David. He learned the importance of communicating openly, a skill he was still honing. Although it was challenging to address these difficult topics, he felt a small win within himself. He was discovering the confidence to voice his needs and understand that relationships might require ongoing conversations and adjustments. David realized that relationships are about balance, respect, and sometimes navigating different perspectives. This lesson built up his self-esteem and helped him strengthen his understanding of love, one step at a time. As David and Sarah spent more time together, the joy of their connection began to feel overshadowed by uncertainty. While he appreciated her carefree view of love, the differences between them increasingly brought on moments of confusion. David enjoyed their adventures, but he couldn't shake the feeling that his deeper need for commitment was being brushed aside. As the weeks went by, he sensed a growing pressure inside him, pushing him to make a difficult decision. One rainy evening, they shared dinner on David's small apartment balcony, the sounds of the city swirling around them. They talked about their days, but the conversation took a serious turn when David addressed their future again. "I really like what we have," he began, his heart racing. But I think we need to talk about where this is going. I want to know if we're on the same page. Sarah's face softened, but David could see her tension. I just don't feel ready for that right now. Her words hung in the air like a thick fog. I'm enjoying the moments with you. Can't we just take it one day at a time? David felt a pang of frustration. He understood her perspective but realized that he had been sacrificing his own feelings for the sake of keeping things light. He caught himself thinking, maybe I should just let this go if it means keeping things easy. But deep down, he knew that ignoring his own needs would only lead to bitterness. His mind raced as he weighed his options. Was he willing to compromise again, even though it felt like a part of him was being dismissed? As he sat in silence, David began to reflect on what truly mattered to him. He had spent years navigating relationships, learning about healthy boundaries and the importance of being true to oneself. In that moment, a realization washed over him. He had worked hard to get to this point of self-awareness, valuing his own feelings and desires. He recognized that demanding what he needed did not mean he was being selfish, it meant he was taking care of himself. Relationships should nurture growth, not stifle it. However, he also knew that every decision carried consequences, be it good or bad. Gathering his thoughts, David took a deep breath, feeling determined but nervous. I think we need to have clarity, he said, his voice steady. I respect that you don't want to rush, but I also know what I need in a relationship. I need to feel that we are moving towards something real, something meaningful. It's important to me. Sarah's eyes widened, and for a moment, he feared he had pushed too hard. The silence stretched between them, both aware that this was a defining moment. He wondered if he was risking what they had for what he believed he deserved. But David also understood that being in a healthy relationship meant clear communication and mutual respect. Seeing the conflict in Sarah's expression stirred something inside him. Would he choose to compromise at the cost of his own happiness? In that moment of uncertainty, David realized that he needed to stand firm for his own needs. The relationship he desired could only thrive if he was honest about his boundaries. Feeling a mix of fear and hope, David lifted his chin and waited for her response. Whatever happened next could change everything, and he braced himself for the possibility of the outcome, a choice between love and self-respect, vision and reality. It was the critical moment that would determine the path of his heart. The atmosphere on the balcony grew thick with tension as the air around David and Sarah felt heavy with unspoken words. Both of them knew they were standing at a crossroads. David took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts, determined not to back down. I really care about you, Sarah, he said slowly, trying to find the right words. But I think we need to talk about where we're heading. I can't ignore it anymore. Sarah shifted in her seat, her eyes dropping to the table as if searching for answers among the scattered crumbs. David, I want to enjoy this time we have, she replied quietly. I'm not sure I want to think about the future right now. Why can't we just enjoy what we have? Her voice held a note of plea, making it clear that she wanted to preserve the joy of their connection. David felt a mix of frustration and sadness, but he understood her point. Still, he was aware of the growing investment he had placed in their relationship. I get that, but I also want to make sure we both want the same things, he pressed on, feeling the weight of his emotions pushing him. I don't want to waste my time if we're on completely different paths. For a moment, Sarah was silent, processing his words. Her expression shifted to one of disbelief. You think I'm wasting your time? She shot back, her voice sharper now. I'm just trying to go with how I feel, and right now, I'm not ready for anything serious. David felt a tremble in his heart as his pulse raced. Her response struck a nerve. He hadn't intended to sound harsh. I didn't mean it that way. I just want to know if we can both be happy here, he said, his voice more earnest now. I'm not asking for a wedding plan. I just want to feel like we have a shared goal. The conversation became a balancing act, with both of them feeling the heat of their emotions. Sarah's frustration bubbled. Is this really about me not wanting to commit, or do you just want this relationship to fit into your box? Her challenge hung in the air, bold and clear. The question made David pause, reflecting on how he might have inadvertently tried to control their path. As they continued talking, there was a mix of urgency and vulnerability. David realized that he had to express his needs without pushing Sarah too hard. He acknowledged his fear of losing her, but he also shared his desire to have a relationship that was fulfilling for both of them. "I want to be open about my boundaries because I care about you, but I also don't want to settle for less than I need," he said. "That means communicating honestly, even if it's hard." Sarah nodded, taking in his words. "I hear you, David," she replied. "This is tough for me too. I love spending time with you, but the idea of a serious relationship pushes me back." The paradox of their feelings was evident, but in this detached space of raw honesty, they began exploring individual fears rather than letting anger take over. It was a moment of insight for both of them. The risks of this conversation hung heavy, as they might either push each other away or find a new understanding. But the reward for David was already evident. He was beginning to assert himself and clarify his needs. As he shared more about his boundaries, he could finally feel the tightness in his chest loosen. Sarah's vulnerability and willingness to talk about her fears created a chance for both to grow. They didn't know what the outcome would be, but the honesty between them felt refreshing, as if they were taking the first steps toward truly knowing each other. In this moment of shared struggle, faith in their connection began to transform the dialogue into something more meaningful, filling the cracks in their relationship with newfound awareness. As David sat across from Sarah, he felt the weight of the conversation pressing down heavier than before. They had shared their thoughts, fears, and hopes, but now he faced a critical moment where he had to make a choice. The sincerity in her eyes, paired with her struggles to match his desires for commitment, made him feel torn. What was at stake was not just their relationship but also his understanding of love and what he needed for his happiness. "I really care about you, Sarah," he said, his voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "But I can't keep pretending that everything is okay when it feels like we're going in two different directions. We've shared so much, but I need more than just fun in the moment." David watched as Sarah's expression turned to concern, her eyebrows knit together. "Please don't say that, David. You mean a lot to me too. Can't we just take a step back for a while? I'm just not ready for the next step right now." Her plea resonated with warmth, but David felt his heart sink. He realized the safety of the relationship might hold him back from exploring meaningful connections elsewhere. In that moment, a deep sense of clarity washed over him. David asked himself if he could accept the uncertainty of a future with Sarah if his heart craved a different path. He weighed the love he felt for her against the need for fulfillment, trying to figure out whether staying would risk compromising his self-worth. The idea of walking away felt terrifying yet liberating at the same time. The thought of facing a heartbreaking end brought a wave of anxiety, but beyond it lay the possibility of healthier choices and new experiences. He realized that he had invested so much time learning about his wants, and now it was time for action. He could begin to prioritize his well-being by making choices that resonated with his values. "Maybe it's best if we take some time apart," David finally said, the words feeling heavy as they slipped past his lips. "I want you to know that this is not easy for me. I just believe we might be at different points in our lives, and it's important for both of us to be clear about what we need." David saw the shock in Sarah's eyes. The sadness reflected back at him felt like a piercing reminder of the connection they had shared. "You mean you want to break up?" she managed to say, her voice trembling. The moment was undeniably painful. But as he watched her process his words, David felt a flicker of certainty deep down. "Yes," he replied, feeling both resolution and sorrow. "I think we should embrace the possibility of growth separately. This doesn't mean you don't matter to me. It's just that we are looking for different things in love." As he spoke, David recognized the importance of valuing himself as much as he valued his relationship with Sarah. He understood now that love should not feel like a compromise of one's needs. He hoped that by making this choice, both he and Sarah would find their paths leading to healthier connections, whether separately or together down the road. Walking away would pave a new journey for David, one where he would embrace the uncertainty of dating with the knowledge of his own limits and wishes. No longer would he settle for a relationship lacking in mutual understanding. Instead, he envisioned a future where he could seek partners who shared similar goals, allowing love to unfold without excessive hesitation. With every step they took apart, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. David realized that it was a choice not only about walking away but also about building a happier life filled with genuine connections. He understood that choosing to uphold his boundaries cleared room for new opportunities, forging ahead with confidence in the realm of dating. This decision became his turning point, a stepping stone to a future filled with healthier relationships and a deeper appreciation for what love truly means. After the decision to part ways with Sarah, David found himself sitting quietly in his apartment, reflecting on everything that had happened. The final conversation replayed in his mind, and he felt a mix of emotions swirling through him. He had chosen to walk away from a connection that once sparkled with promise, but the weight of this choice already felt lighter. There was a welcome sense of clarity surrounding him. In the days following their breakup, David took time to process his feelings, journal in hand. Writing poured out his emotions, from sadness to relief, and even a hopeful sense of freedom. Although he missed Sarah, he also realized that he was no longer willing to deny his needs. Through their time together, David had learned that being true to himself was more important than simply seeking connection for its own sake. He pondered how he had changed throughout his dating journey. Each experience, even the more challenging ones, had helped shape his understanding of love. He recognized that love wasn't just about romance, it also involved knowing oneself and finding someone who aligned with his values. The tension with Sarah had taught him to trust his instincts, reminding him that it was okay to want something different from what others might think he should have. At times, doubts crept in. Thoughts like, "Did I make the right choice?" danced through his mind as he processed the lessons of heartbreak and bravery. But as he reflected, David recognized that meaningful relationships required open communication and mutual desires. He learned that wanting a partner who shared his goals was not a flaw, it was essential. While these lessons felt empowering, they also came with moments of confusion. David admitted to still nursing a longing for connection. There was a part of him that wished for a relationship without the struggle. But he also understood that the desire for an easy relationship should not outweigh the necessity of fulfillment. By knowing what he truly wanted, he could make more informed choices in the future. At times, he looked back at the memories of his dates with Sarah. He cherished the laughter they shared and the adventures they had, but he reminded himself that those moments had also led to questions unanswered. He could see those times clearly now, full of joy but filled with unanswered needs. This understanding served him as a comfort, transforming what he once saw as a dreamy relationship into a valuable learning opportunity. As days transitioned into weeks, David began to feel the shift in his outlook towards dating. He perceived it less as a competition or a strategy and more as an exploration of oneself and the connections one can make along the way. He also found himself excited at the prospect of meeting new people. After all, every new connection could become a chance for understanding he hadn't considered before. He began setting intentions for his next dating experiences, wanting more depth in those interactions. Instead of looking for quick sparks, his journey now felt like a quest for true compatibility. He planned to approach dating with an open heart but with eyes wide open, ensuring that he communicated his needs openly and honestly. Each day brought clarity and determination, separating his values from the noise of external expectations. David learned to embrace uncertainty, understanding that every choice he made would guide him closer to finding someone who shared his vision of love. It was a new beginning, one filled with hope and possibilities, driven not by fear but by the desire for a healthy, fulfilling relationship. In the weeks following the breakup, David focused on reclaiming his confidence and rebuilding his sense of self. He knew that the emotional journey had taken its toll, and he wanted to ensure he didn't rush into another relationship without fully understanding what he needed. Rather than diving straight back into dating, David decided to take a break, allowing himself space to reflect and grow. During this time apart, he dedicated himself to exploring his own interests and passions. He picked up activities he had set aside during his relationship with Sarah. With a sketchbook tucked under his arm, David took to the local parks, feeling the creative energy flow through him as he sketched the world around him. It revitalized him to embrace his artistic side that had been buried beneath the weight of their romance. Each stroke of the pencil became an expression of his joys, disappointments, and dreams. David also began attending a few local workshops, eager to learn new skills. He tried pottery for the first time and found great joy in molding the clay. Each creation became a metaphor for his journey. Shaping something beautiful from his hands was a reminder that he could shape his life too. Through community classes, he met people from all walks of life, some of whom shared similar experiences, helping him feel less isolated in his journey. As he immersed himself in these activities, David slowly regained his sense of self-worth. He often reflected on what he had learned about his needs and boundaries. By focusing on things he loved, he began to feel whole again. This time for himself became a form of self-care, allowing him to rediscover the aspects of his character that had been overshadowed during his last relationship. As the weeks passed, David noticed a shift in perspective regarding dating. He started to understand that he didn't have to rush to find another partner to validate his worth. Instead, he wanted to approach dating from a place of strength and clarity. He felt empowered to consider what qualities mattered most to him in a partner, knowing that healthy connections could only flourish when he knew himself first. With the newfound confidence bubbling inside him, he began to craft a mental list of what he truly desired in a relationship. David realized he wanted open communication, mutual support, and shared goals with someone who valued the same depth that he sought. It was a complete change from his previous approach, where he had sometimes settled instead of seeking fulfillment. After several months, with his heart feeling lighter, David decided he was ready to dip his toes back into the dating pool. But this time, he approached it with excitement rather than anxiety. He updated his dating profile to reflect his interests more accurately and to convey his desire for genuine connection. When he swiped through profiles, he sought out qualities that matched his newfound sense of self. David felt empowered as he bravely re-entered the world of dating. He engaged in conversations with potential matches from a place of honesty, openly sharing his expectations. The lessons from his past experiences served as armor against possible disappointments, as he held firm to his boundaries. Rather than letting fear guide him, he remained focused on creating healthy dynamics with others. David's journey of self-discovery allowed him to evolve into a person who knew his worth. He learned to celebrate his individuality while opening himself up to the possibilities that awaited him in future relationships. As he stepped forward into this new phase of dating, he did so with heart and hope, eager for the meaningful connections that lay ahead, firmly grounded in the lessons he had integrated into his life. As David stepped back into the dating world, he felt a sense of renewed purpose and clarity that he hadn't experienced before. The emotions from his last relationship and the lessons he learned became guiding lights, illuminating his path. No longer was he simply chasing connections to fill a void, he now approached dating with a strong sense of self-awareness. His break had been transformative. David embraced the idea that knowing his own needs was not only acceptable but essential. He felt empowered to establish clear boundaries early on, ensuring that he wouldn't compromise his values for the sake of connection. He learned to communicate his expectations right from the start, articulating what he wanted in a way that felt comfortable and authentic to him. As he re-entered the dating scene, David quickly realized he had become more discerning in choosing whom to engage with. He focused on matching with individuals who shared similar values and interests. Where he once may have overlooked red flags out of fear of being alone, he was now cautious and thoughtful. He reminded himself that although it was okay to want companionship, it wasn't worth sacrificing his happiness for the wrong person. David also adopted a perspective of being open to growth and discovery. He understood that every relationship could teach him something, whether it flourished or not. He was eager to explore new connections while remaining grounded in his newfound self-awareness, no longer blinded by desperation or the need for acceptance. With each new conversation, David felt a refreshing sense of curiosity. He sought to build connections based on shared interests, knowing that compatibility could lead to meaningful relationships. Instead of feeling pressured, he took the time to enjoy the process of getting to know someone, focusing on building connections organically. He was unafraid to engage in questions that reached beyond the surface, opening conversations about dreams, values, and life goals. As he navigated these new interactions, David couldn't help but feel hopeful. He envisioned a future where he could be with someone who appreciated him for who he was and offered the same honesty in return. He wanted a partnership where both could thrive individually while supporting one another. His belief in love had deepened, transcending romantic notions to encompass a sense of shared growth. The boundaries he set were now a source of strength. If a date didn't align with his vision for a relationship, he steered clear, refusing to linger in uncertainty. The confidence he exuded was palpable, and others noticed his self-assuredness, which naturally attracted interest. This new chapter in David's life allowed him to face dating with an open heart, but also with protective grace. He knew he wouldn't rush things. Healthy relationships take time and care. With every step, he molded his expectations and ground them in self-respect. Each date became a chance not just to find love but also to celebrate his personal journey. As he continued to discover new relationships, David felt optimistic. He understood that there would still be challenges ahead, moments of vulnerability and uncertainty, but he was willing to face them. With a firm grasp on his boundaries and fresh insights about his values, he believed he would navigate them with maturity. In the end, David emerged stronger, equipped with the tools to pursue healthier relationships. He was committed to finding love but, above all, devoted to nurturing a joyful relationship with himself first. His heart now carried the hopeful promise of what lay ahead, where love could flourish in the light of understanding and respect.